The other day I was like trying to figure out if this guy liked me or not, so I was looking up like signs a guy likes you. I know, I'm 24, I should know this stuff by now. Hey guys, it's Molly here again for another video, and I mean, you can see it in the title, you know what we're about to do. I recently did a video, linked below, about my 10 favorite things about being blind, and I felt like this seemed like the logical next step was to do my 10 least favorite things about being blind, or the 10 most difficult things about being blind, because I think it's important to be honest and raw and real and authentic, and as much as I search for the positives in my life, it doesn't negate the negatives. And I think it's unfair to only shed light on the great things of blindness when that's not the reality. Like, there is a lot of struggle. I'm not going to sit here and say that being blind is the most easy thing in the world. I've learned to accept it. I've adapted to it. I've lived like this for 10 years now. I've been building towards it my entire life. I can make things look really easy, but that doesn't mean I don't still deal with challenges, and that blind people in general don't still deal with challenges. So I don't want this to be like a sad pity party video. I just want this to be like, hey, here's the other side of the coin. Yeah, there's awesome things, but there's also struggles that I face on a daily basis and those in my community face on a daily basis that we can't just forget about. If we forget about them, A, there's never going to be a way to create change for these things, and B, it can take away from the support we might receive in being able to do things. I don't know if that made sense. I hope it did. Let's just get into it in no particular order. Here we go. Number one, not being able to see yourself or know what you look like, which goes hand in hand with not being able to see like your friends or family. Like, knowing one day if I have a baby, I won't be able to see its first smile. I won't know if it looks more like me or my husband. Just not being able to see people and to see myself is a real struggle, especially for me as like a 24-year-old girl who loves makeup and fashion. Not being able to look in the mirror and see that my makeup looks nice or my outfit's cute and like suits my body or whatever is just frustrating sometimes. I know I would be able to do makeup a lot better if I was sighted, just because I'm so hardcore into makeup. Like, I feel like I'd be some like Jaclyn Hill, James Charles level makeup artist, but I'm not, and I can't be, because it's just, I struggle too much. Like, I feel like I'm good at the basics of it, but if I could see in the mirror, I know I'd be better, and that's frustrating. Number two, people staring at you, and I know this might be like, but wait, you can't even see it. But just knowing that everywhere I go, people are watching me and looking at me, and I would say like it bugs the people I'm with more than it bugs me. Like, my friends and family get really frustrated that people are staring at me and looking at me like I'm a zoo animal in a cage, and I just wish people would stop staring. Three, feeling vulnerable. I mean, it's really scary sometimes to be in situations alone when you can't see, and to feel like you are lacking a defense mechanism that is being able to see, to get yourself out of unsafe situations, to get yourself to safety, to see what's happening, to prepare for things coming ahead. It just can feel very vulnerable at times. Number four is the fact that people generally, I would say, expect less of you and treat you differently. People in my life who know me don't expect less of me. In fact, I'd say they expect like more of me, you know? I feel like they like hold me to the standard that they would hold anybody else to, if not a higher standard, because they know I'm capable of reaching it. But that's not the general public. I would say it's like really nice when I go to like, say, VidCon or something, where I'm surrounded by people in the industry who, you know who I am, or surrounded by my followers who know who I am and know what I'm capable of, because they don't treat me differently. But when I'm in situations around strangers who have no idea who I am or what I do, and they know that I'm disabled, they treat me differently and they expect me to be able to do less or be less capable. That's annoying, to feel like people are treating you like you're less than you are. Number five is accessing information and education. Unfortunately, this comes down to how inaccessible the world is at times, and being able to access an education or just access information in general, I've always found to be very difficult. And I think it made it difficult to reach my full potential within the education system. Like, I did very well, but it was a struggle. And I think it would have been a lot easier to get the grades that I did if I had been able to see and been able to easily, read the board in class or flip through my textbook. Like, just things like that are, I think people take for granted at times. Even now, accessing information, PDFs aren't accessible. So whenever somebody sends me a PDF or an image, like, I can't read that. Or just in general, there's so many places where things aren't brailled and I have to have somebody read a menu to me. And because of how inaccessible places are, it makes it more challenging. Number 6 is having to rely on other people. And I know in my favorite things about blindness, I talk about the fact that my blindness has helped me develop a lot of trust, which because I had to rely on other people, which is true and I do appreciate. But the other side of the coin is I have to rely on other people and sometimes they don't follow through. They don't come through for me. And that's really annoying. When I'm like, God, if I could only just do this for myself and I didn't have to rely on somebody to help me, I would have been able to get it done quicker or faster or more effectively. And that can be annoying. Getting denied access because of my guide dog. This is something that will always frustrate me and seems like it'll never stop happening, especially with more and more fake service dogs popping up, making it more difficult for real service dog users every single day. But it's really frustrating when somebody drives away from me in a taxi or an Uber, and I just want to say to them, like, how would you feel if somebody drove away from you because of the color of your skin? If somebody drove away from you because of your religious beliefs? You're doing the exact same thing to me because of my service dog that I need to function. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who still don't understand that like, discrimination is discrimination. Just like you don't want to be discriminated against for what makes you different, I don't want to be discriminated against for something I can't control about me that makes me different either. Missing out on body language and facial expressions. This is such a big one. More than 90% of communication is nonverbal. I'm missing out on a lot of stuff happening up in here, Like, so many times I'll be at a party and I'll be talking to a guy and I'll leave and they'll be like, that guy was so into you. And I'm like, really? I didn't notice, because so much of it was in the way he was looking at me, the way he was moving, like stuff that I wasn't aware of was even happening. Even just there's so much subtlety to a facial expression or body movements, and you just miss out on a lot. And even if you look like, okay, this is so embarrassing. The other day I was like trying to figure out if this guy liked me or not. So I was looking up like signs a guy likes you. I know, I'm 24. I should know this stuff by now, but I couldn't figure it out. So I looked it up, and literally there was a list of like 50 ways, and like 48 of them were visual. And I was like, damn, that's not helpful. So that's really annoying, and it definitely becomes a challenge when I'm talking to somebody in particular who has a very strong accent, because when you're talking to somebody with an accent, you're often looking at facial expression and body language when there's a language barrier. If somebody doesn't know the word for something in that language, they'll like point. I can't see that, so that can be really difficult. Number 9, lack of employment opportunities. They say about 80% of the blind community is unemployed, and that to me is just unacceptable. It's not because we're not educated. It's not because we're not capable. If I can find the study, I'll link it below. But a few years ago, this study came out where they basically asked anonymously employers if somebody was applying for a job who was blind and was capable of the job, would they hire a sighted person over the blind person? And 8 out of 9 said yes. They would hire the sighted person over the blind person, which is such a shame. I have so many friends who like go to school again and again to get more degrees and more degrees with the hopes like by getting another degree they'll be able to find better employment, and they just can't. And so many people have to live on disability support checks, and it's not because they don't try. It's not because they don't want to get up and get a job. It's not because they're lazy by any means. It's because after applying 30 times and being denied because of something you can't change, wouldn't you give up too? I don't know. It's the reason I started my own business. I didn't want to have to rely on people to employ me and see my potential. I wanted to get out there and achieve my own potential. Next one, being in loud or dark environments. Like loud and dark environments, I should say. Like a nightclub, a bar, a big party, a concert. Because when you can't see, especially I'm thinking of even like more so my younger self when I had more vision in the daytime. At night I couldn't, so all of a sudden now I can't see at all, which even now to this day, like because I have light and shadow perception, the darker it gets, the less I see. So like you can't see it all, and then it's loud, so you can't hear it all. So now you can't see or hear what's happening. And oftentimes, in those situations in particular, people might be drinking, or there's like a large amount of human strangers packed into small spaces. It's another situation in which I feel vulnerable. It's another situation in which I feel unsafe. I can't communicate. I can't have fun because I can't even talk to the friends that I'm there with. I don't know what's happening. I miss out on the jokes. I don't enjoy it, which is a shame because I'm kind of a party girl. I love to go out and have fun. I love to meet new people, go listen to music. And I feel like I can't enjoy those situations as much as I would. I'm always the person at a party who's like, let's go outside. Because I know if we like go out into the backyard, there'll only be like 10 people instead of 50 people with the loud music playing. And I don't know, I prefer to hang out with like 10 friends in a house party than go out with 10 friends or 5 friends to a bar. And finally, I guess we're ending on kind of a sad note. I don't even know how to phrase this. Being more at risk for sexual abuse and violence. And this is something I don't think I've ever really touched on my channel. I've talked about it a bit in some articles I've written. I wrote one for Vice where I believe I talked about this a little bit, so I'll link that article down below. I wrote it, so I'm biased, but I think it's a really well-written article that talks a bit about this, and I think it's important, so I would highly encourage you to read it. I believe I learned this a few years ago when I went to the United Nations for a conference I was speaking at. Again, if I'm wrong, I'll correct myself. I don't want to state this as full fact, but I believe it's about 90% of disabled women are sexually assaulted, raped, or violated in some way violently. When I learned that statistic and when my family learned that statistic, it like hits hard. Like, it's a very scary reality. I 100% will say, from my own experiences and from those of my fellow disabled women and blind friends, I believe it. And it's sad to say that I do. Because I wish I could say, like, I think it's wrong, but I don't. They say that of that 90% of disabled women, those who are most at risk are those who are blind and deaf, because one of our most important, senses to keep us safe, to protect ourselves, is compromised. It entirely changes the way I approach dating. It entirely changes the way I approach being in new environments with strangers, especially when I'm alone, and contributes to that feeling of vulnerability I talked about earlier. All I can say to, my fellow women, but especially my fellow disabled women is be safe, take precautions, and unfortunately keep it in the back of your mind, because we've got to protect ourselves. So that is definitely something that sucks about being blind, and I hate about being blind, and I wish wasn't a thing, but it is. So ending on a really sad note, but again, I don't want this video to be sad. I don't want you to pity me. This is not me looking for sympathy. This is me stating the reality and just talking about the negative things that I feel like I often try to avoid talking about on my channel, because I don't want sympathy, because I don't want pity, because I don't want people to feel bad for disabled people. I want to be somebody who empowers disabled people, who shows the positive, because I don't think the positive part is talked about enough when it comes to disability in mainstream society. But I also feel a duty to my community to be real and to share the other side. That's what today was about. I love you so much. Thank you for the support and love you bring to my life, because the love and support you share continues to bring a smile to my face every single day and make every day better. So thank you so much. Give this video a thumbs up if you feel like it was helpful in any way or shed a light on something you were unaware of. Please hit the subscribe button and turn on that little notification bell, and I'll see you next time.